The story begins with an unknown young man, whom we'll call Alex. Alex narrates his story to warn people of a devil who will destroy the world, bringing poverty, hunger, and plague. This devil is, in fact, Alex himself. Alex recounts that several years ago, after graduating from college, specifically from a theater major, he had spent all his money during his college years and was also burdened with student loans that he needed to repay after getting a job post-graduation. Therefore, he was forced to think of a way to earn money to pay off his debts and live his life. After much thought, Alex came up with a bizarre idea: to create a cult or group with himself as the leader. The cult would consist of a group of people whom he would convince of a certain idea and take money from them, positioning himself as their leader and chief. Alex says he came up with a literally diabolical idea. The concept was that there is a devil named Demi-Forn who will come to destroy the world, leaving only the innocent who have not committed any sin or transgression in their lives. The way for people to become among these righteous innocents is by atoning for their sins in the world, which involves giving away all their money and valuable possessions to a person called the Collector of Sins, who will sacrifice himself to gather people's sins and protect them from torment. This Collector of Sins is none other than Alex himself. Alex admits that the idea he proposes might seem unbelievable to anyone, but someone with his charisma, persuasive power, and acting experience could easily convince anyone of his idea, using some incomprehensible words, satanic spells, and bizarre actions. He managed to gather many people around him who believed that the devil Demi-Forn was speaking through him. Alex reveals that after only a few months, he managed to pay off all his student loans and was finally free of debt. He could now leave the cult and let the people enjoy their money. However, greed took over Alex, and he decided to continue benefiting from his group. He bought a building for his group to live in and then asked them to find jobs and hand over their salaries to him, while he would be responsible for their food and drink. According to Alex, the money for the building, maintenance, and food was nothing compared to what he took from them. He began buying expensive watches and spending on his private home, bought with their money. Alex recounts that he wasn't a bad person, as he didn't leave his group lacking anything. When the coronavirus appeared, he made sure they got their vaccinations. He didn't exploit them like other cults that engage in sexual activities with their members or even make them commit suicide. For him, it was only about the money. Alex continued with what he was doing. Every year, at a specific time, he would go with his group to an empty farm to perform their rituals. Alex would arrange bricks in a specific way and ask one of his followers to read from a book called The Summoning. While the reading was happening, Alex would start acting, speaking in Russian and various other languages while screaming as if the devil Demi-Forn was speaking through him. According to him, the act would last for about 10 minutes. Afterwards, his group would stand waiting for the translation. Alex would then tell them that Demi-Forn had spoken through him and asked them to pay more tithes to cleanse themselves of sins. Indeed, the members would pay Alex more. Alex narrates that everything was going well until one day, while listening to The Summoning with his group, he noticed that the reader mispronounced a word. Before Alex could correct it, he found himself falling to the ground. He kept falling until he hit a stone floor. He quickly stood up to look around and was shocked to find himself trapped in a pit. The highest point was a small light, no bigger than a pixel. Looking down, Alex suddenly saw that the ground was made of red eyes staring at him. The eyes multiplied until they covered the walls, all looking at him angrily. Suddenly, cracks appeared in the ground. Alex looked closely and discovered they were open mouths, each uttering a single word. Alex tried to scream, asking what they wanted from him, but the eyes and open mouths laughed in unison. Suddenly, they began to speak, saying, "You lied in my name. Your sins are dark and many. You listened to fame and wealth. But now, your tongue is tied and your mouth is shut. The time has come for Demi-Forn to speak for himself." Suddenly, more than one long tongue emerged and wrapped around Alex, covering him completely. Then the eyes began to move towards Alex and entered his body, saying, "Now Demi-Forn will live inside you, bringing plague, war, famine, and death." Alex suddenly woke up and found himself still lying on the ground, surrounded by his frightened and anxious group. Alex stood up, relieved that it was all just a dream. He went to the bathroom to wash his face. While looking in the mirror, he suddenly saw a creature resembling him, with the same body, but with a face full of eyes, many mouths on each arm, and a large brain on his stomach. Alex quickly looked at his own body and found it normal, but his reflection in the mirror was completely different, resembling the devil he saw in the dream. Alex tried to convince himself that what he was experiencing was just hallucinations caused by the nightmare. However, he suddenly heard a voice saying that Demi-Forn is the only reality, and he himself is a fake. Startled, Alex asked what it wanted, and the voice, as if coming from within him, replied that it wanted a mouth to speak with, a hand to cause pain, and a soul to call its own, to conquer the earth, make children cry, turn rivers into blood, and at the winter solstice, annihilate all humanity. Confused, Alex asked if it meant to use him to destroy the earth during the winter solstice. The voice replied that Alex is a dark soul but smart. Overwhelmed, Alex hit his head against the mirror until it broke, then collapsed and fainted. After a while, Alex woke up and looked again at the remains of the mirror. Relieved to see his normal reflection, he decided to stop drinking alcohol and using drugs. Alex recounts that a week after this incident, the time came for his speech to the cult. Suddenly, one of his followers asked why he used poetry in his speech, as he had never done so before. Alex, confused, asked what he meant and when he had used this style. The follower said he had just spoken it a few minutes ago while addressing them. Alex had no memory of addressing the people just minutes ago, and only remembered that he was about to speak to them. He looked at himself in the window glass and, according to Alex, suddenly saw the reflection of the devil Demi-Forn, not himself. Alex was scared and couldn't understand what was happening to him, thinking it impossible for drug or alcohol effects to cause such hallucinations. His follower interrupted his thoughts, asking if he was okay. Alex pretended that he recited poetry for his own reasons and walked away, leaving him behind. According to Alex, weeks and months passed, and he noticed that he was forgetting many things, to the extent that there were entire days he couldn't remember anything about. He felt that Demi-Forn was using his body more than he himself was. Suddenly, he found plans for government buildings, schemes for bomb and explosive locations, and weapon caches all over his house, with no recollection of them. This confirmed to Alex that Demi-Forn was indeed using him to bring about the end of the world. Alex recounts that he tried to contact the FBI, but every time he tried to call them or send an email, he would lose consciousness. It was as if Demi-Forn was preventing him from writing anything that could thwart his plans. Alex said he had lost hope of stopping him because he was nothing more than a tool in his hands. Demi-Forn had become among us and would bring with him plague, war, famine, and death.